Your voices are your choices. Do you believe that? Or do you fall victim to an occasional voice or two of yours? My name is Bill Guertin. I'm an expert in peak performance and human behavior in sales. For the past 15 years, my work has been concentrated in one specific arena, the ticket sales departments of professional sports teams. I've now worked with over 100 different teams in the US, Canada, and Mexico. But early on, I started noticing a pattern. Some of the most gifted young people I met along the way would somehow underperform or not reach what I thought their true potential would be. So I started studying what factors went into what makes some performers succeed and others to fall short. Want to know what I discovered? The one thing that kept people from the success they wanted for themselves? It was the negative voices inside their heads that worked against them, that kept them from being their best. And as I started to organize the results, I discovered that there are 7 fundamental voices that each of us hears inside their heads. Those brain invaders. Those doubts and fears that cause you to second guess yourself, to jump to conclusions, and ultimately keep you from the best version of yourself. What I'd like to do for all of you here today is to bring a short 20-minute version of this longer transformational program to you. Your voices are your choices. And after this time together, you'll have a far clearer understanding of how powerful they really are, how they affect every part of you, and what to do going forward. I want to help you get out of your head and into your life. We're going to meet them, treat them, and beat them. Let's take them one at a time.
Wow, they have such a nice car. That is such a great outfit. I'm so jealous. Look at what they're eating, and they're so skinny. How does that happen?
You ever heard that voice before?
I am the voice of comparison.
Comparison is one of the most prominent voices we have in our heads. Do you find yourself looking over the fence at the neighbor as to what they have, perhaps in the car next to you on the road, comparing vehicles, in all the other windows here on the Zoom call to see how your background stacks up to everybody else? Psychologists often call the voice of comparison the terrible twos. No, not T-W-O, but T-O-O. The terrible twos sound something like this.
I'm too slow,
too uneducated,
too short,
too indecisive,
too average, too picky,
too impatient,
too quiet,
too clumsy,
too critical,
too smart for my own good.
Everyone
Everybody
else gets more likes than me.
I wish I still had a full head of hair like him.
I'm still single and she's getting married again.
Science now says that up to 10% of our total thoughts every day are comparison thoughts. It's so common, they even have an entire branch of psychology devoted to it. And you know where one of the worst places this happens?
The bathroom mirror?
No, social media. Have you ever been on Facebook and seen a post from somebody you know and you say, well, this isn't their life. It's not Facebook, it's more like Fakebook. When you see enough of this, you start to believe that everyone else is better somehow and you'll never measure up.
Now, wait a minute. What about all those salespeople you train? Don't they have to compare themselves to some standard of performance?
Well, sure. A lot of occupations rely on comparison to motivate, especially sales. A lot of the teams I work with have one of these. They call it a hustle board. In a sales environment, it's important to measure success. And so they'll put numbers on the board to make sure that everyone knows what everyone else is doing. They want to know what the standards of performance are within their own group for their own success. Of course, it's not for everybody. How many of you are having a panic attack just thinking about your own name on this hustle board? But I've seen so many good young people self-destruct from the pressure of this constant comparison. And those voices start to invade their heads. Does the voice of comparison weigh you down? If so, here are a few ways that you can stop the terrible twos from taking over. Number 1 is to choose M&Ms, mini milestones. Mini milestones are smaller, easy to measure goals that you can set for yourself over a shorter period of time so you can feel good about your progress. If you're an athlete like a distance runner, you understand this more than anyone. I am not a distance runner and I am in awe of you who can do it and enjoy it. My running distance is from my house to the mailbox. Now, if you have a goal of 23 miles, you don't start on day 1 running 23 miles. If you need to start a workout routine, start out for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, a few days a week. If you've got a messy house, clean out one room at a time. Want to get back into the dating scene? Ask one person out for virtual coffee. That's not as intimidating, and it's a step. Everyone that you see that you're comparing yourself to had to start exactly where you are today at some point.
So you want to clear the bar at whatever level you can today and keep raising the bar a little bit higher each time?
Yes, that's right. So let's take a look at number 2. Be a shortcut seeker. Who's the best at what you want to be, and what do they know that you don't know yet? Whoever it is that you're comparing themselves to has probably figured out a way to be the best. Where can you go to look into what they did or what they do that you could do too? Here in the US, if you like to do home repairs and remodeling, you probably know TV stars Chip and Joanna Gaines. They're really good at taking ordinary stuff and making it extraordinary. But when they do it, they're not using duct tape and cheap plaster. They're using quality materials in the process. So in whatever you choose to do, figure out the shortcuts or the secrets that the very best use in order to get the results you want. How can you be just a little more like them in 1 or 2 ways and see a little improvement?
So you might be better at golf if you had clubs that weren't from the 1980s.
Sure, if you wanted to improve your golf game, better equipment might be one way to get there.
No, I was talking to you. You'd be a better golfer if your clubs weren't so old.
When have you been in my garage?
I am your voice of comparison.
The third thing to help you with your voice of comparison is to get real. Ask yourself, who or what am I comparing myself to? So maybe you love cooking, but is it realistic for you to want to be the next master chef? Maybe you'd be better off by saying, I'm going to make the best dinner my family has ever had, and then deliver on that. Or for maybe some of you, it would be, I'm going to cook the first dinner my family has ever had.
Compare yourself realistically. I like that.
Good. So here's your action plan to turn down the voice of comparison. Get your M&Ms in order, those mini milestones to make you feel better about achieving smaller goals. Be a shortcut seeker. Find little ways to be better more quickly. And get real. Find comparisons that you can achieve versus ones you probably can't or won't. So let's move on to number 2.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Anybody ever heard that in their heads? Most people have. Our second voice is...
The voice of regret. Nice to meet you all, but of course we've already met many times.
If only I would have bought that stock last year.
But you didn't.
If only I would have followed the directions on the box.
But you didn't.
If only I wouldn't have bought that weird Halloween costume on eBay and actually worn it.
Oh, but you did.
We've all done some things or didn't do things that we regretted later. According to the most recent research on psychology and regret, the things that people feel the deepest regrets about, starting at number 5, are their personal self, parenting, romance, career, and number 1 on the list, 32% of the respondents, is education. Things like, I should have stayed in school, I should have studied harder, should have earned another degree, things like that. But there are 2 remarkable correlations with most every study that's been done about regret in the past 20 years. First, people are most regretful about their inactions than their actions, like their education, their career, or finding love. And the second very encouraging thing is this. With a few exceptions, the more often the regret shows up, the greater your chance seems to be to take positive action to address it and to make things right. In sales, rarely do reps have regret about sales they attempted. They're most regretful of the sales they chickened out on and never tried to make. Of course, we're going to try to screw up, but if we're constantly worried about what we've screwed up in the past, always looking in the rear view mirror, you know what happens when you take your eyes off the road ahead. Yes, that's the sound of regret. So let's talk about how you might begin to quiet down that voice of regret and get the courage to move on to bigger and better things. Number 1 is to let the balloon go. Let it go. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to let it go. Imagine that thing, whatever it is, as a big shiny red balloon floating up and away. Psychologists say that feelings of regret can affect your body chemistry in dozens of negative ways, like high blood pressure, energy levels, hormones, immune response, and much more. So If you want to increase your tolerance to coronavirus, give yourself permission to let go of the regret.
I like that.
Number 2 is that as you fail, make it a rule to always fail forward, as John Maxwell is famous for saying. What did we learn from what happened, and how can it make us better, smarter, or more likely not to do it again? Maxwell says it this way: if you're not failing, you're probably not really moving forward. Sales is all about keeping your eyes forward and failing enough times to be successful. Once younger reps understand this, many of them stop regretting their mistakes and they start looking forward to making as many as they can sooner so they can succeed sooner.
You got to live to learn.
That's right. And lastly, if your regrets have to do with what you may have done to someone else, I want you to be a fixer. Healing can often come from making something right again. Don't put it off because you'll regret that too. Who do you need to talk to? Pick up the phone. Take the first step. Put your ego away and make it right. When you get home today, text that person. Apologize to those who were affected. Put it behind you. Let them know you're thinking of them and find the time to get together. So here's our action plan for our voice of regret. Let the balloon go, fail forward, and be a fixer.
Well, I hope they enjoyed it because it won't be happening with me.
Now, hold on. Let me introduce you first.
Whatever, won't make much difference.
Voice number 3 starts with 2 little words.
I can't.
And it can quickly spin out of control. Maybe you recognized who it is already.
The voice of inadequacy.
Inadequacy. That feeling like no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, you never measure up. If you're a leader of any kind right now, you're feeling this a lot more. Leaders at all levels today are living what psychologists call imposter syndrome, when you feel like a fake, that you're really not as smart as people think you are. Not only that, you live in fear of being exposed as a fraud. Even worse, when you do achieve something, you're not able to accept it positively. And it's especially true now during the pandemic. There's another side that's happening more often too. When something good does happen, no matter what it is, have you ever had the but factor kick in behind it? See if these sound familiar. I won Employee of the Year.
I still don't have a degree.
I made it on the team.
But I can't play defense very well.
I finally potty trained my child.
But it took 3 months and 29 rolls of paper towels.
Even when we accomplish something.
It never seems to be enough.
So, how can we stop this brain invader of inadequacy? And start feeling better about who we are instead of who we aren't. One thing you can do right away is this: kick your butts. When you make progress at any level, it's important to give yourself credit for your accomplishments. Accept the praise of others and use it for fuel to keep on going. So instead of saying, I need to find a job, but no one's hiring, try it with the word and instead and see what a difference it makes. I need to find another job, and until I dig in and look, I won't know what the job market looks like. Number 2 is another way to use words to help you overcome feelings of inadequacy. Use yet to get. If you hear yourself saying, I'm not, add the word yet. If you say to yourself, I'm not a good guitar player, that's self-defeating. But if you say instead, I'm not a good guitar player yet, you give yourself some space for the journey of becoming. I'm not a certified technician yet. I'm not the friend that makes the first attempt to reach out yet. We are all in states of becoming. So when you're hearing that negative voice of inadequacy saying, I'm not this or that, tack on the word yet and decide to do something about it. And number 3 is it's not just you. Trust your gut on this. You know it's true, but I will guarantee you that 90% of those you're comparing yourself to are feeling the very same thing that you are. We as humans are naturally insecure, but it doesn't have to take us over completely. By using the 2 reprogramming phrases that you just heard, and by understanding how common these feelings are among everyone, you can begin to reduce the negative feedback in your brain and get on the right positive frequency to succeed on your own terms, not those of the people around you. So here's our action plan to turn around our voice of inadequacy. Kick your butts. Use yet to get. And remember that it's not just you.
You know, I feel better already.
Number 4, you can't deny me. I am absolute, specific, unchangeable.
Imagine that. You know, you wouldn't even think this is a real voice at all.
Excuse me? Not a voice? I'm the only one you can actually prove.
Do you really think that that's true?
Science doesn't lie.
Science, right. May I introduce
The voice of genetics.
genetics? For those of you that think you were born with the wrong set of genes and everything you were ever going to be was predetermined even before you were born, this is for you. So let's see if you were paying attention in science class so many years ago. How many chromosomes do we all have in our DNA? Yep, that's right, 23 for those who guessed that. And from that 23, there are over 420 billion combinations that give you the characteristics of who you are, each one being an absolutely perfect and beautiful creation. But it's truly sad to hear young people say things like this today.
I'm never going to be a good soccer player.
I'm never gonna be smart.
I'm never going to be someone who's on time.
I will never be special at anything.
Ugh, just tears your heart out. But many people think this way, that they're stuck with what they're given.
Hey, you've either got them or you don't. You're either born with the good genes or you're destined to be in the pits with the rest of us.
See, I don't know about that. I reject that notion. What I do know is that for some of you, this voice of genetics might be holding you back. You may think that's just because who you are and that's all you're ever going to be.
It's science.
No. I truly want to challenge that. Just because no one in your family is a great artist, doesn't that mean that you couldn't become one? Say if nobody else went to college in your family, does that mean that you aren't going to college either? Your mom or your dad chose a certain profession, a teacher or a scientist or whatever they do. Do you think you're destined to do the same thing?
It's science.
But it's wrong. It's wrong.
You are denying science?
No, not completely. I'm just saying there's more to it than chemicals and history. There's desire, environment, all kinds of influences that can be just as important as your genetics. Sometimes we can start to believe that we'll never be what we want because of how we were born. Don't let people tell you you can't do something just because of who you are. Here is the bottom line, gang. Our unique destiny is more about desire than about DNA. In fact, you don't even need 3 things to move you forward here. All you need is to stop getting down about who you weren't born with or what you weren't born with and get after it about what you are. In fact, some of you may not think you're wired to do something in particular, like, say, be a rapper. How many of you don't consider yourself to be potential rap star material? You know, throw down a fat beat with a stanky rhyme. Well, for those of you who don't think you have that in you, we're going to give that a try here. Now, take it down low. Make sure you're not too loud for the people in the next room, but I want you to repeat along with me. I'm okay with my DNA. I'm okay with my DNA. What I got, well, it's hot. My 23 looks good to me. I'm okay with my DNA. Come on. I'm okay with my DNA. Oh, that's fun. The voice of genetics has been slain. Now, there are 3 more voices I'd love to introduce you to in my longer program, which I customize for companies and organizations around the world. You're welcome to download the PDF resource here to learn more about what they are, or go to the7voices.com to learn more about the options for your group and to learn about the 7 Voices 21-day challenge. I hope that I've inspired you to take action today to channel your own voices into something you can say with confidence. I did meet them, I know how to treat them, and I will defeat them. God bless, and thank you.